The member from Calgary Fish Creek.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to observe 16 years of Holocaust Memorial Day, or Yom HaShoah, in Alberta. I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to recognize the memory of the sponsor of this act, former MLA for Calgary Glenmore, Ron Stevens. On November 16, 2000, when this legislation was passed, the Honourable Mr. Stevens said, "There are voices calling out to us from history, and they have much to teach us if we listen. They teach us about the dangers of simply being bystanders and of remaining silent. The voices of history teach us the need to commit to a legacy of remembrance, education, and conscience." Today, we pay homage to the more than 6 million Jews and many others targeted and brutally slaughtered by Hitler's Nazi regime. Included in this gruesome figure are 13,000 killed during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Mr. Speaker, in April of 1943, the Warsaw Ghetto bravely resisted Nazi attempts to transport them to their deaths in the Treblinka concentration camp. The resistance lasted just under a month and ended with the SS, when the SS ordered the ghetto burned to the ground. Block by block, all remaining residents were either burnt alive or suffocated in the fires. This act of defiance was the single largest Jewish revolt against extermination. It exemplifies the bravery with which every Jewish man, woman, and child faced during the horrors of the Holocaust. And then there was the Łódź Ghetto. Over 200,000 ghetto residents died or were exterminated in the nearby Chelmno camp. On September 4th, 1942, the fateful "Give me your children" speech led to the methodical extraction of over 15,000 Jews. The sick, children under 10, and the elderly were exterminated, mostly in mobile gas vans, forcibly separated from their families. Mr. Speaker, my father was a Polish-born Jew from Łódź. His fateful refuge to Shanghai in 1917 saved his immediate family, now survived by my family. Among the victims of the Holocaust, as far as we know to this day, were all of the members of my father's extended family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, an entire bloodline wiped off the face of this earth. These, Mr. Speaker, are the stories of horror and blind hatred that few are left to tell. Mr. Speaker, there are thriving Jewish communities across Alberta established in large part by refugees from senseless genocide and brutality, and Holocaust survivors who sought refuge in Canada during and after the war. Names such as Aaron Eichler and Bronya and Sid Sungeiser come to mind for sharing their stories with all Albertans. And their stories are inextricably linked to Alberta's story. Their past traumas are traumas. Their grief is our grief. And remember, this happened not just because evil people did evil things, but because good people did nothing and said nothing. At sundown, Sunday, April 23rd, all Albertans will stand in solidarity with Jewish communities across the province to remember all who have perished at the hands of such evil. And as we face an uncertain future in a world that struggles with terrorism, mass refugee migration, and extremism, let us renew our vow to never again stand idly by as such heinous crimes as those perpetrated during the Holocaust are committed. Because, Mr. Speaker, the single greatest act of remembrance we can engage in on behalf of victims and survivors amongst us and around the world is to do our mitzvot, our good deed, and do all we can to reaffirm our commitment to upholding human rights, to fight for and protect freedom and democracy, to value diversity in all its forms, and to help those fleeing violence and persecution in a way which embraces the multicultural richness we enjoy and cherish in Alberta as tolerant, respectful, and inclusive society. Thank you.